Mr Acting Speaker, bring it on. Mr Acting Speaker, look, I just want to start by correcting the record. Last night I was unfortunate to be in the chamber and listen to the deranged contribution from the member for Cannington. And I'm looking at an uncorrected proof here of Hansard, so I won't quote it, but I will reference it. And he goes on to make this absurd and completely untrue comment that I'll get to that. That I have said in this place, and arrogantly said in this place, that I'm going to win the election in 2017. I can say without equivocation, Mr Acting Speaker, I've never made that comment, whether it be in this chamber or out of this chamber. I've never once said that, ever, or an iteration of that. And I would never be so arrogant as to take my constituents or my electorate for granted the way that the Labor Party has taken the eastern suburbs for granted for generations. I would never. I will continue to work for my electorate. I will continue to deliver for my electorate where I can. And I'll stand on my record in 2017 and be judged on that by my constituents. I will never make those comments and never had. So I did not appreciate that. Anyway. Well, we're used to the member for Cannington coming into this chamber day after day, and as he walks off, peddling Labor lies, see you next week, peddling his Labor lies, and I mean, we all know his standards or lack thereof. All you have to do is cast your mind back.
Member, you need to withdraw that statement about lying.
Labor lies. Acting Speaker. I'll withdraw.
Thank you.
You know, but I was making a comment about his standards or lack thereof, and I think that's evident by the way he ran the 2008 campaign. I'm sure members that were taking notice back then would remember the kinds of behaviours that the then State Director got up to. But Mr Acting Speaker, I wanted to go on and reflect on the Leader of the Opposition's speech, the reply to the Premier's statement. And I think for me, it convinced me that the Leader of the Opposition is a man of no substance, no direction, and no alternative. For him to stand up here and blatantly make throwaway lines like, I hate payroll tax. I hate payroll tax. No vision about what he's going to do or how he's going to tackle payroll tax, but just say he hates payroll tax and then move on to his next throwaway line. He said that the government dropped the ball on diversification. Well, Mr Acting Speaker, I get around the state. I get into various communities around Western Australia and I speak to people. And I see things like diversification medical research. You only have to look at the fantastic facility at the new Harry Perkins Institute. You only have to go down and look at the science innovation at UWA with ICRA, Mr Acting Speaker. Spend 5 minutes with Professor Peter Gwynn and see what we're delivering in science and innovation in Western Australia. It is truly outstanding. And this is all part of diversification of the Western Australian economy, Mr Acting Speaker, and it's under the leadership and guidance of this Liberal National Government. Mr Acting Speaker, we all hear about the mining and resources sector going from construction to production. So obviously a government with foresight would be ensuring that construction jobs are there and there for the taking. So let's just focus on some of those construction jobs. Elizabeth Quay, construction jobs. Perth City Link, construction jobs. The new Perth Stadium, construction jobs. Gateway WA, we heard from the Minister for Transport this week in question time, 1,300 construction jobs. And of course, the $2 billion Forrestfield-Airport railway link, again, more construction jobs. We look at the growth of the agriculture industry, Mr Acting Speaker, both domestically and internationally. And of course, we heard the Deputy Premier talk about tourism this week also in this state. The Leader of the Opposition also worried about education. Well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And I may have made a comment or two about the Leader of the Opposition when he was Minister for Education, as I was working in the system at the time. And, you know, I don't say it lightly, but he is considered by a number of my former colleagues as one of the worst education ministers in recent times. And can I say, on the opposite, on the flip side of that, the current Premier is actually recognised as one of the best education ministers of current times. And that's, again, I've got to get out more, spent 10 years in the system. Another pathetic interjection from the member for Warnbro. So, Mr Speaker, getting back to education and, you know, the Leader of the Opposition's passion for education in Western Australia. And yet when he was Minister for Education, what did he do? He disillusioned the entire workforce, bungled curriculum implementation and changes, bungled it. Would he listen to teachers? No. Would he give them the remuneration they deserve? No. But what he did do, Mr Acting Speaker, is spent $666,000, taxpayers' dollars, refurbishing his office. Priorities. I mean, the Labor Party are all about the little person, all about the common folk. And yet here we see a minister turn his back on public education, but made sure his office was suited out to a T. So I'll leave you with that, Mr Acting Speaker, and I will make reference to a Sunday Times article, Sunday the 29th of June 2008. And it goes, Minister counts refit cost. While teachers battle the Carpenter government for better pay, Education Minister Mark McGowan has spent $666,000 of taxpayers' cash refitting his luxurious St George's Terrace offices. Shame. Shame. I think the people of Western Australia can judge that. But then, Mr Acting Speaker, he goes on to talk about stable government and cast aspersions on this Liberal National Government as not being a stable government. Please, let's have a look. The Leader of the Opposition as a Minister. You ready? This is like a revolving door. 10th of March 2005, appointed as a Minister. 7 months later, reshuffle. 1 month later, reshuffle. 3 months later, reshuffle. 10 months later, reshuffle. 1 month later, reshuffle. 2 months later, reshuffle. 1 month later, reshuffle. 6 months later, voted out, thank God. And Mr Acting Speaker, Mr Acting Speaker, all to the backdrop of the revolving door of the Triple C, where Labor ministers, one after the other, were high-fiving each other as they tag-teamed in and tag-teamed out. They were a disgrace. They were a disgrace. But let's qualify it. That's the Leader of the Opposition's view on stable government. So, thank you for that lovely insight into your thinking, Leader of the Opposition, and your clear vision for stable government in Western Australia. And of course, you know, he said that people were leaving the state in droves, which again was proven to be another Labor lie in question time when the Deputy Premier got up and said actually that's not the case. WA is a great place to live. WA is the best place to live. If you want a job, if you want to raise a family, if you want to be secure, if you want quality education, if you want quality infrastructure, Western Australia is the place to live. Western Australia is the place to live. And Mr Acting Speaker, on that, I want to talk about some of the things that are happening in my part of the world. And of course, a lot's been said about some of these projects. You look at the Gateway WA project, which is a $1 billion investment in road infrastructure, and I don't think anyone on either side of this chamber could say that they haven't been through that project and seen what a transformation is taking place. And it truly is. And furthermore, Mr Acting Speaker, 6 months ahead of schedule, $45 million under budget. Clear testament to this state government's management of contracts. 600 Western Australian businesses benefiting from this investment in this project, 1,300 construction jobs, and the Gateway Alliance has dished out about $400 million worth of contracts, Mr Acting Speaker. Further to that is obviously the Berkshire Road-Roe Highway intersection, which is under construction at the moment. Now, again, the Leader of the Opposition came out and tried to throw a bit of mud last year and say that, you know, I'd lied to the people of Forrestfield, I wasn't delivering it. And yet you drive through there, Mr Acting Speaker, and I do it all the time. And every time I go through there, I actually get a little bit confused as to where I am. And that's the common feedback I get from constituents, because it's changing so rapidly, the landscape's changing so rapidly, people get a bit disoriented. So again, another project being delivered to the people of Forrestfield, and about time. A project that Labor talked about but never filled the space and never delivered. And Mr Acting Speaker, we go on to talk about the real game changer for the eastern suburbs, and that is the $2 billion Forrestfield-Airport link. I won't go at length into this project. $2 billion, 20-minute train ride into the city, major bus interchange, and 2,000 to 2,500 car bays. This is a real game changer for the eastern suburbs, and it makes public transport a viable commute to the city daily or on the weekend. And it gave me great pleasure last week to be out with the Minister for Transport to look at some of the geotechnical work that's taking place where they're taking core samples and getting a geotechnical analysis of the area so that tenderers know exactly what they're dealing with when construction starts and tunnelling starts under the river. Mr Acting Speaker, it would be remiss of me if I didn't talk about schools. I won't go into education. I got a chance to talk about that the other day. But schools, there's been a lot of capital investment in schools in my electorate. At the end of last year, I had the opportunity to open the new Year 7 block with the Education Minister, the Honourable Peter Collier, which is great. I drive past it regularly and the Year 7s look like they've been there forever. It looks like it's just been a part of the landscape forever, and it's fantastic, and they've just really made it their home. Brand new facilities delivered by this government. It's fantastic. And it gives me great pleasure to know that in a week or two's time, the Minister for Education and I will be opening the updated facilities at Maida Vale Primary School. $5 million investment there, long overdue, well and truly long overdue, but they're over the moon about that, and that will deliver first-class facilities for those kids to learn in. Mr Acting Speaker, I could go on, but I will conclude my comments there. Needless to say, I'll just end with this comment, and that is, I am always impressed by the people and the organisations that reside within my electorate, and it gives me great joy, and I'm very humbled to continue to represent them in this parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Member.